Hello students. Okay, we've looked at the perimeter of shapes with straight sides. We had a quick look at a special number called pi, which is the ratio of the circumference of a circle, the distance around, compared to its diameter, which is the distance across. And it turns out we can use that to find the circumference of circles. So what we learned in the last video is pi is just circumference divided by diameter of any circle. I'm going to do a little bit of equation solving here, and I'm going to multiply that side by d, and therefore multiply that side by d, because the rule for solving equations is you do the same thing to both sides. Those divide out, and that leaves me with circumference equals d times pi, or the way we normally write it, circumference equals pi times diameter. And that's the rule for finding circumference. Let's go ahead and show you how we actually use this. Okay, here I've got a circle on the left, and the diameter is 9 centimeters. So again, we start by writing the formula. On our formula sheet, we actually use a lowercase d for pi, so we'll stick with that so it matches the formula sheet. So circumference equals pi times d, or just pi d. Now, what do I put in place of pi? Do I put 3 or 3.1 or 3.14? Well, because we have calculators, we might as well just use the pi button on the calculator because it's a lot more accurate than what I can remember anyhow. So I'm just going to keep that pi as pi. I'll just make sure I press the pi button on the calculator when I do the calculation, and times the diameter, which is 9. So first line, write the formula. Second line, substitute. Third line, work out the answers. Pi times 9. So clear what I have. There's pi down there written in gold, so I need to hit the shift key, and pi multiplied by 9. Let me move that off to the side. Equals, and I've been asked to round it to 2 decimal places, so 28.27. And again, don't forget the units, that's centimeters. Okay, slightly different this question here. Again, I'm going to start by writing my formula. Circumference equals pi times diameter, or pi d. But in this case, I'm not given the diameter, I'm just given the radius. So you have to be a little bit careful that you don't just use the number that's in the diagram. You got to also think, hold on a sec, I need the distance all the way across, which is 6 meters. So therefore, in this case, I go pi times 6. Once again, get out my calculator. I'll drag it off to the left. Shift pi times 6. Now I need to round this to 2 decimal places. I've got 8.4 followed by a 9. That 9 means that 4 rounds up to a 5, so 18.85. And once again, don't forget the units. In this case, the units are meters. Okay, let's now have a look at some slightly trickier questions. So find the perimeter of each of the following shapes, correct to 2 decimal places. So here I've got a shape which is a half circle on top of a rectangle. Now, the reason I chose this question is a lot of students, when they're doing the calculation, want to add in the length of that line because they can see a line there. They think they have to add it in the perimeter. But we're only interested in the distance around the outside. Whoops. Not going across the middle, so that is not part of the perimeter. So in this case, I'm going to write my formula. Perimeter equals, now this is only a half circle. So here's the way I suggest you do it. Pi times diameter, divide 2. We've got a fraction button on our calculator. I think it's easier to just enter it that way. And then I have to add on to it. That gets me from there to there. I've got to add on a 2 plus a 5 plus a 2. Well, the easiest way, 2 plus 5 is 7 plus 2 is 9. So in this case, just plus 9. Notice I don't write the units when I write this line here. I'll do that on the next line, show you that I don't write the units. Pi. Now the diameter is the total distance across there, which is 5, all over 2 plus 9. And again, I don't write the meters in there because it looks too much like a variable. So people might get a bit confused if I wrote an m there and an m there. So we save writing the units until the last step. Okay, now let's use our calculator to work out the answer. So drag the calculator to the right. I need my fraction button. Pi multiplied by 5 all over 2, right arrow, plus 9. And again, round it to 2 decimal places, 16.85. The third place is a 3, so it stays at 0.85. So 16.85, and the units are meters. Okay, to finish off this section on circumference, I want you to find the perimeter of this shape. Now, a lot of students have trouble with these when they first come across them for the first time, so I'll give you a hint. What students think when they see this is they think area. They think, okay, I've got a big area, half a circle, and I'm taking away 2 small circles. But when you're talking about perimeter, you're not taking those away, you're adding them on. So I have a big half circle, and then to continue walking around this shape, I've got to do another half circle, a smaller one, and another half circle. So in fact, it's going to be that plus that plus that. Okay, so with that hint, go ahead and see if you can work out the perimeter of this 2-dimensional shape rounded to 2 decimal places. Okay, let's see how you went. Okay, so I'm going to first write my formula. So perimeter equals, this is a little bit hard because I've got 2 different diameters. So I'll start with the large circle, and I might even use a big D for that one. So pi times big diameter, and again it's only a half circle, so divide 2. I could have used a D1 there and a D2 for the next one, but I'll use a big D and a little d. Now, these 2 half circles, again, I'm going to add them on because I've got to walk that distance plus that distance plus that distance to get back to my starting point. Now, these 2 half circles make up one whole circle. So I can say plus pi times little d over 2. And I have to use big D and little d because these numbers aren't the same. So I can't use the same letter for each of them. I could have used D1, D2 is another way I could have done it. Okay, let's put our numbers in now. So stick with pi because we can put that in using the calculator. Now the big diameter is 12. And it's only a half circle, so divide 2. Plus pi, whoops, I just made a mistake, so I'm going to fix that up. If I've got a half circle plus a half circle, that gives me a whole circle. So, in this case, I don't need to divide 2. So it's just pi times d. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all of that. And it's going to be plus pi times, and if that whole thing is 12, half of that is 6, so plus pi times 6. Okay, let's just go ahead and use our calculator to work out the answer. And again, the calculator needs to be pushed across to that side. Start with the fraction button. Pi times 12 all over 2. Plus pi times 6. Okay, always a good idea when you're using a calculator is to check what you've typed into the calculator matches what you have on the paper. And let me go ahead and check that. So pi times 12 over 2, yep, plus pi times 6. Looks pretty good to me. And the total distance around the outside, 37.699. Well, again, looking at the third decimal place, because that's a 9, 69 rounds up to 70. So I get 37.70 meters. Okay, just to recap on this page here, if you see a dotted line inside a shape separating two simpler shapes, normally that's not part of the perimeter, so don't go ahead and add that length in. The second thing you should have learned from this page here is when I'm finding the perimeter of this shape, I have to add these two lengths, not subtract. I've had a lot of students in the past that think I've got a big circle minus two smaller circles, I've got to subtract. That's true for area, but it's not true for perimeter. Just think, how long do you have to walk? How far do you have to walk? I've got to walk there, plus there to get back to my starting point. And if you think like that, then you won't have too much trouble doing questions like this. Okay, let's leave it at that.